Ignorance is the cause of suffering. Well, details on this is so ignorance is the cause of suffering. That's the statement. Now, where this applies is ignorance of what is important to clarify, and also a few other things, meaning my own ignorance causes my own suffering. My own ignorance causes suffering in others. So my own ignorance, my own lack of understanding, or my own false understandings about myself and about the world leads to my own suffering. And not only that, but my own ignorance about myself and about the world lead to me behaving in a way that causes suffering for others. And that's the game of life while ignorant. Of what specifically, let me back up. To define ignorance a little further in detail. Ignorance again meaning either a lack of understanding or a false understanding. Either a lack of knowledge or a false knowledge. Either or both. Of what? Of the world and what it is, of life and what it is, but mostly of myself and what I am. Now, to go even deeper into this, self-knowledge is the knowledge that once known, all is known. In other words, understanding the absolute truth of myself is the knowledge to which all else can be known. This isn't Davy Joe. This is ancient utterances of truth, reality from ancient India. And maybe other cultures have this too, but I think Jesus said something about knowing thyself as well. But so here we have this kind of situation, and this declaration. We have declared before us that if I know myself, all can be known. How can that be said? I mean, if I know myself, does that mean I know math all of a sudden? Or if I know myself, does that mean I can change, a part on my car when it breaks? No, that's not what it means. But it means you understand or know intimately and deeply the foundation and the base of all existence, everything in existence, including car parts. Now, how can that be again? Just to be clear about this, because it's not really helpful or useful if we say things, or if I was to say to you something and then kind of leave it hanging as some kind of theoretical, philosophical thing. Like, how is this a reality? How can this be actually known for sure? Or how can I believe it? I don't even want you to believe anything that I'm saying. That's not what's happening here. So how can this be real? It is said that the nature of all things, the way in which oneness can be understood before it's experienced, is to know and accept, even have faith in, even you could say, that the foundation or the ground of all existence, everything in existence, is consciousness. is consciousness itself, pure consciousness. So what that means is even the car parts, at their foundation, is consciousness. Okay? So that, the only way to know that is, like, I can't like investigate a car part, dissect it, melt it down, you know, understand its molecular values, or whatever. I won't find consciousness in that, you know, necessarily, at least right now, as far as our ability to break down things or whatever. Although you could say, just a little tangent, I guess you could say that when you break down any material thing small enough, you end up with this sort of, what's the right word? Indescribable atomic thing that is incredibly, infinitely subtle. Maybe that's consciousness. But anyway, the only way I can really know consciousness is to investigate myself, or to experience myself as that. There's a saying that goes, nothing can be known until it is subjective. So the only way to know anything is to know it by being it. This is like how we can relate. An example of this is empathy. You know, I can't know what someone else is going through emotionally unless I embody that and experience it directly for myself, subjectively. Yeah? Okay. So the only way to know consciousness, at least right now, is self-investigation. Or grace. You know, or grace. Or somehow through the grace of the supreme power, which is ultimately pure beingness, pure consciousness, pure potential, pure spirit, whatever you want to call it, all really synonyms. The grace of some divinity also may offer us an experience of the absolute truth of ourselves. That is pure consciousness. Pure consciousness, also divine, also spirit, soul, you can say. All these words, we're talking about the same thing. Okay. So either by grace, and how can grace come to us? You could say, you know, you can't really try to get grace to come to you. In a way, grace may come spontaneously. Also, grace may come through devotion to the higher power. You know, when we prostrate, or when we bow our worldly selves, or our human self, or our ego self, when we present the personal aspect of our being at the feet of the divine, then grace may be bestowed upon us. That, and or self-investigation, deep contemplation on the nature of who I am, even contemplation on the question, who am I, also can offer this realization of the truth of who I truly am. And not only that, simultaneously is what comes along with that realization is the realization of all as that same ground, or that same foundation of existence. And so now how does that relate to suffering and conflict? Is knowing all, or knowing myself as pure consciousness. What happens with that is pure consciousness is unaffected and undisturbed ever by anything. So there's no modification or quality of mind that can disturb consciousness purely. Modifications of mind and qualities of mind only can play with themselves. So mind can only play with itself. In other words, another way of looking at this is something that some emotion arises. To what is it that the emotion has any effect on? So what is affected by emotion? The only thing that's affected by emotion is the mind itself. And while we are falsely identified with the mind and with the body, those emotions seem to affect us as we are. But when we realize that we are not that, then we are unaffected by it. And so the relationship with it changes. There's a whole nother, I can go off on a tangent on the relationship with emotion and the relationship with even physical pain and things like that as it shifts. And the deeper, so that's a whole nother thing and a beautiful subject. But today I'm trying to keep the focus, a little bit more focused. So to know this, and again, it takes a little maybe trust and faith that this is true. This is what is, again, this is not Davy Joe making things up. This is what comes from ancient India. And but also, I wouldn't be sharing it if it wasn't also, there was a degree of testimony as well with it. I'm sharing this with you because this is my sadhana, this is my practice, this is my life, this is what has been revealed as true in my own experience of life. So again, what's declared is that this pure consciousness, that is the true self that we are. And not only that, but the true self or the true subject in all of existence, everything in existence, and every no thing in existence. So it's beyond things and void, for example. But what's most important, that is, it is who we are. It is what we are. It is the nature of self. And that is untouched by the world, unaffected by the world. So what that means is it eliminates, if I am that and I live as that, truly, fully, completely, permanently, or even in fluctuating degrees, but we'll get into that in a minute. But just for now, if I live from that, if I am that and I know that, then all the movements of life, from the material reality world, the physical world, nature, and my own inner experience of mind and emotion and ideas, concepts, beliefs, all of that, I'm unaffected by any of it. Therefore, suffering cannot happen for me. My own suffering cannot. Suffering for me cannot be. While I'm rooted in self-knowledge, in truth, true being. And so suffering only comes when my identity is falsely placed on the mind itself or on the body and/or. Now, when I exist as that pure self, pure consciousness, it is the very essence and nature that supports life. Right? So from that pure consciousness, from that pure spirit, life emanates. Existence emanates. It is the very essence of harmony, balance. So all of life is in harmony because of this ground, because of this foundation that life comes from, that is consciousness. And so when I live from that, I live from harmony. I live from the place that supports all life. And so my actions and my behaviors that come through or move through my body are pure and move for the harmony of all that I come in contact with, of all associated with this particular principle or aspect of divine expression. So we can see how self-knowledge, knowledge of who I truly am, either coming to me through self-investigation and or divine grace, realizing I eliminate my own suffering, and I also eliminate my actions supporting suffering in others. So my actions now support life and support the same awakening within others. If I live from that awakened space, then my actions support the awakening of others in the same way, because that is my essence. That is the radiance of that sort of the fragrance that comes off of my being. So hence the gravity of this sort of way of living, the importance and the potency of living in this way. And what's so lovely about it is this sadhana, or this practice, can be an aspect of 100% of our life. So there's some practices that you need space for, you need time for, to set aside your life and to get into. But this is an aspect of sadhana or practice that even during those other practices that you've set aside for, let's say it's a physical yoga practice, or it's a meditation practice, or it's a practice of japa or mantra chanting or any of this, this is something that can be woven into every other aspect of your practice. And not only that, but this is something that can be woven into every single moment of your life. There can be this attention on self. This can be this sort of presence with thoughts, presence with life experience, this relationship with life of how is this reflecting to me myself in all of life, in every interaction with every being, including people, humans, your interactions with squirrels and mosquitoes, and your interactions with the wind, the sun. Every moment of your life can have this openness to realizing yourself. And what does that look like? So when thoughts arise for you, when it's like, so let's say it's a thought, it's a suffering thought, because what's a suffering thought? So many, beyond just like emotions that feel like painful, like grief or something like that, but a thought of a judgment towards another person, a critical thought about another person in like a cynical or harsh or like a judgmental way. It doesn't feel good for the vessel. It doesn't feel good for the one who has that thought. That's a pain, that's suffering. Having a mood of separation and grievance or resentment towards another. I'm suffering from that, and then the actions and the expressions from that cause suffering in others, right? So when these things arise, we can question, okay, so if that's arising for me as what is that arising, right? If I'm suffering that, if I'm feeling that, if I'm embodying that, I'm saying I have this feeling. There's an I with the expression, with the thought. If that's there, I can say, okay, I heard this knowledge of, if that's what I'm feeling, then I'm in a false sense of self. I'm in an unreality. I'm in ignorance. And then I can remind myself of who I truly am, from what I've heard from the yogis, from what I've heard from the Vedantins, from what I've heard from this wisdom from ancient India. I've heard about this self that is, I'm told that this is what I truly am. So let me try. Okay, so I'm feeling some pain, I'm feeling some suffering, I'm feeling some contraction or something as myself. So I can acknowledge, okay, what that means is, what they're telling me is I'm identified as the mind and the body. So then if I question, okay, that's not who I am. I'm declaring, that's not who I am. I'm putting this into practice. That's not who I am. I am not the mind. If I am not the mind, then who am I? I am pure consciousness. Then what happens? Then just sit. Then just settle in that. I am pure consciousness. Aham Brahmasmi. I am Brahman. I am the ultimate reality. I am pure consciousness. I am the unfathomable truth. My only quality is a qualityless, is the formless, is the substratum and ground and foundation of all existence. That is myself in nature. And as I do that, watch what happens. This is the practice. This is the process of self-inquiry. And this can be applied at any given moment of your life, any second. There's not a single moment of life that this cannot be applied. It's a refuge. Your own self. And it's tangible. It's direct experience of who and what you are. And it's an experiment. It's science. This is science. This is an investigation of a theory, a hypothesis, and then a direct investigation, and then a direct knowledge and experience that is undeniable. This is where science and spirit meet in self-inquiry. Right here, in an instant. Many blessings and divine favor. May the light of truth, the supreme, one, undifferentiated, undivided, Supreme Lord of all the universe, bestow blessings on all. Peace, friends.